Good morning. It's Teresa. And hey, I had a huge win this past weekend. I had a major mental health success, and I just want to share with you guys some of the insight that I've come up with as a result. I had an amazing week of little stinkers last week. Like, I absolutely love and adore children, and especially when they are toddlers and we don't have to use actual words because they don't know words. Those are the best people of all. And I am a little bit like Menudo, where once they get past like age 6 or 7, I kind of start getting tired of them, you know? I really like the littlest stinkers of all. They just fill my heart with gladness. So I have started volunteering at the library, which means I can go sit in on the toddler story time and sing songs and clap hands. Oh my God. And I can also go in after school and tutor grade school children in reading, because there are a lot of immigrants in this area who don't speak English, and so they need someone to have the children can read to them so that we can make sure their reading skills are up to speed and explain any vocabulary that they don't understand, etc. So that is something that is pretty rewarding, I mean, on its face, but when you meet these different kids and interact with them, you really get to understand where an 8-year-old is at psychologically in a way that you wouldn't if you don't have an 8-year-old to interact with. Like, it can be, as an adult, you can think of kids as a bit monolithic, kind of, and they're really not. Like, every year is a very different experience for kids. So the reason I'm bringing this up is that because I've interacted with a couple of young girls who were the same age that I was at when I was abused, it really gave me a whole new perspective on my mom's abuse of me, because I can now put myself in my mom's shoes, which I never did before, right? Like, I can imagine, I can run the same scenario of the different emotionally abusive things that my mom did to me with me as the adult and this 9-year-old, and I can see how completely fucking out of line I would have to be to have that conversation with this child, right? Like, that becomes really obvious in a way that many years of just thinking about it on my own never did. So, again, let me just say, therapy is the greatest thing in the world. Talking about these things with a therapist and also putting them out here on this blog clarifies my thought process and gives me a perspective that I would never have had otherwise. It's its own sort of zen. So, with my neighbor child, who is 7 is the age that I was at when I was sexually trafficked by a guy named Joe. That child is my little buddy, and she thinks that she's terrified of clowns. I had a 15 to 20 minute conversation with her in which I assured her repeatedly that a clown is just any other person wearing a costume. It could be anybody. It could be a bad person or a good person, and anybody can dress up as a clown, and it's no different. It's just somebody in a costume. She was not trying to believe that. She's terrified of clowns. She thinks they are born clowns, like it's a different kind of person. So at one point I told Julie I could fly. She believes I can fly because she was being kind of a goof, wanting me to jump up and down because I'm fat, and she thinks that's funny, I guess. And so her one of her aunts is really a bitch, and so Julie can kind of get into a little bit of mean girl stuff that I like to encourage her away from, because she's actually quite a nice kid. So I didn't play that shit. I was like, no, I don't jump up and down at all. I just fly. I don't have to bounce or jump. I can fly. And so I didn't expect her to believe that, but she did. And so I kept going with it. And it's been probably 6-7 months now, and she's still trying to catch me not being able to fly, which is hilarious for me. Someday she'll figure it out, and I don't care. It's fine. You know, but that's the age that I was at while these people were fucking with my head. You know what I mean? They expected me to be able to interact like an adult. They you know, my mom, let me give you an example. One time when I was maybe 9 years old, I had cleaned a glass bowl that my mom used to keep on the dining room table. So it was a pretty fluted glass bowl, but we had it on the table always. I mean, it was like she would have fruit in it. She would put her keys in there, or, you know, at a holiday, she would have like a pumpkin in there or something, whatever. But so at some point when I was like 9, I took it in the kitchen to clean it, and I washed it in the sink, and I dried it off, and I was carrying it back out to put it back on the table, and I dropped and broke it. for whatever reason, I got knocked into something or whatever the fuck happened. I dropped and broke it, and it was very loud. It just crashed to the floor, and she came running in from the other room and just geeked out on me. She just started screaming at me, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Why can't you do anything right? That bowl was worth more than you. You're a fucking nightmare. Why do I have to fucking deal with you?" Blah, 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 blah. And I just sat there and screamed, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." And she's yelling shit like, "That bowl is worth more than you." Okay? So by having these interactions with these random children, like age 7 and the girl at the library who's age 9, it really gives me a better context for processing so many such incidents with my mom. Like, I have to think about this. Okay, let me pretend that I am the mother of that little girl that I tutor at the library, or the one who thinks I can fly. She thinks I can fly. So she is washing a dish and she breaks it. Like, if it's that fucking precious, why have her wash it? Question 1. If I had something like that, I would never give it to a 9-year-old to fucking mess with. I would put it away somewhere if it was that precious to me because it belonged to my grandmother. It's very simple. You cannot expect that 9-year-old to behave like a high-level adult. But that was exactly... My mom always had that. Like, I'm meant to be her servant. And actually, what I realized this weekend is she was wanting me to be her fucking mother. That's exactly what she wanted from me. By making the active decision to forgive that ugly bitch, you know, just like accept how crazy she was, and like it doesn't sound like I forgive her, but yeah, I just get that she's a train wreck and I don't have to take it personally. You know what I mean? That is enormously huge. I'm almost at the point where I can really feel sorry for her, so I'm getting there. But you know, just what would it take for me to have to scream at a 9-year-old that that bowl is worth more than they are, and continue screeching at her even after she says, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Like, that's basically like the emotional equivalent of rape, you know? And that's what I told my therapist the other week, was like, with rape, it's like you're just going along your life doing whatever you think, and then someone in the scenario, unbeknownst to you, has decided to become unstoppable in some way. So basically, it's always a non sequitur. It's not what nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. And you know, you basically find yourself, a lot of times it's just confusing, and people just, it seems so weird and uncalled for that you just kind of feel like if you can just be cool, like a lot of the Harvey Weinstein kind of shit, people just kind of feel like if they can just wait it out, then we can just go back to normal. I'm sure that's how it was with Louis and Harvey Weinstein and a lot of them. So, you know, but that's just not how it works. Someone has decided to just become unstoppable with you in whatever way, and they're just going to vent until they're done venting. And by the time you figure out what the fuck is going on, it's almost too late. Then you just end up having to wait until they're done. Being raped was really not a whole lot different than dealing with my mom when she went crazy about little simple shit like that. Like another time I ruined her dinner. I tried really hard to make it nice, but we had cockroaches in the house, which as a 9-year-old I was not able to work around. Like, I go to extreme lengths to not have cockroaches ever touch my food in this apartment because it's a very large building and I can't prevent other people from fucking having them. But, you know, there's no way I could have done that as a 9-year-old, and she was ridiculous to expect me to, especially since she was depriving me of food. She's depriving me of food, and if I don't keep her food perfectly straight, even though she's failing her responsibility as the adult head of household to not have fucking cockroaches, you follow what I'm going with this? It was all insane. But what I realized is that it's kind of like with serial killers, or like with the Golden State Killer. After he would rape different women, he would like want to cuddle them and spooning and crying and calling her by somebody else's name. So basically, it's the same thing with my mom. It's like she wanted her mom's approval in a way that she did not get. And she, you know, her mom bested her every time, and my mom just wasn't having it. So on the one hand, she learned to just bully her child. And then when she I guess she feels like the double payback towards my grandmother was just built into the sauce. And then my grandmother also used me by proxy to continue the control struggles with my crazy ass mom. Like these two crazy women. I'm just very proud of myself for even as an 8-year-old knowing that I should never have children. Never, 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 never would I have a child. Never. Just, I knew it would be a form of abuse to push a child out of my vagina. So, it just feels really good to see that that's what that was all about. It was just her emotionally raping me because she didn't know how else to deal with my grandmother. My mom was an alcoholic. I'm sure my grandmother was a secret alcoholic too, because they're all secret alcoholics in my mom's family. Like, if you see that many Irish people and they claim not to be drunks, they're liars. I would never think that before. I know a lot of Irish people that are not drunks, but like that entire family, not one of them cops to being a drunk, nah, that's bullshit. So, anyway, that's basically what it came down to. I saw that I was being used as a proxy for my grandmother, right? Like, my grandmother laid my mother so low that, you know, my mom just wanted to have her ass perfectly fucking kissed by my grandmother. Perfectly kiss my fucking ass and accept me while you do it. And that's never gonna happen, right? Same with the Golden State Killer. The woman who dumped you, bitch, she's done with you. So, you know what I mean? You're never gonna get that woman's approval. She's never gonna wanna sex you down. So, go out and kill somebody about it. You know, it's the same thing. So, just to hammer that point home for me, I don't know if you guys remember, like maybe a month or two ago, I witnessed a domestic violence incident on the beach. And it was the same kind of thing. It was pretty much exactly the same as me ruining my mom's dinner while trying to make it nice for her, or, you know, whatever the fuck, different rapes that I've experienced. It's all the same shit. These people were walking down the beach. They were having a conversation, which was in a foreign language, maybe Farsi. And he just started getting louder and louder. At first, I thought it was just like they were going back and forth. But no, then he started getting really loud. And then at one point he shoved her to the ground, and it's just a bunch of bullshit. But basically, in that whole incident, she never did anything but apologize and try to get him to de-escalate. Now, I don't speak enough Farsi. I suck. I took a whole year of it, but I suck. So I don't speak enough Farsi to know what the fuck she was talking about, but just by her body language and her tone and his body language and tone, she was only trying to get him to de-escalate, just like I did with my mom. And speaking now from experience, when someone has decided to just become unstoppable on you until they're finished venting, trying to assuage them will never work. Because the more you apologize and grovel and try to get them to stop, the more they feel empowered, and they're not going to stop till they're done either fucking way. It's how it's going to go. So for me, you know, I've just learned not to grovel. So, but I have two different neighbors, one directly above me and one almost directly across from them, that have this kind of fights. They each had one of these blowouts in the past week. Sunday afternoon, the guy across the way spent over 1 hour screaming about his cock and balls to his cowering, sniveling, crying girlfriend. Like, I never heard her voice. I only heard her, you know, kind of mewling, like, you know, that kind of shit. At the very end, I heard her crying, and she said something loud enough that I could hear her saying words, but I couldn't make them out. Him, I could hear every crazy word for over 1 hour. I'm the man in this family. I have the dick and the balls. You fucking bitch. Fuck is wrong with you? I make the fucking decisions. That's why I have the pants in this family. Blah, 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 blah. And he's nothing. He's a fucking little twat. And, you know, after I complained to the landlord about it, she told me there is no male living in that unit. That's just her dipshit boyfriend comes over here to just unload on her like that. Oh, hell no. The next time that little puke comes to this building and tries to berate that woman like he's my mom on an acid trip, I'm going to regulate his bitch ass. He goes maybe $1.25 dripping wet. I will kick his fucking ass. I will bring my cane out there and garrote him with it. I don't give a shit. And then the guy upstairs from me did the same basic thing. I spent close to an hour down here listening to him scream, "You fucking bitch," and I don't hear her voice ever. It's the same as with the beach. It's the same as with my mom. Like, no, I'm just gonna go unstoppable on your ass, and you're just gonna lay there and cry until I'm done. You know what I mean? So I don't know why that woman or that woman sees something in that magical penis upstairs. I don't get it. I don't fucking get it. But I can understand that my mom was just such a weak, pitiful person, like my neighbor guys here, that too cowardly to actually approach the person who bullied her. And so they find somebody that they can definitely get the upper hand on, and then that's just what they do. So I feel, it doesn't sound like something that I should feel really good about, but I totally do, because I'm liberated from how horrible it felt for me to put in my 100% effort, wanting my mom to love me and appreciate me and care how hard I tried to be good, and just have her rage on me in response. Like, that was just heartbreaking. It crushed my self-esteem. It ruined my life, really internalizing that kind of shit. So letting go of it has been really magical. And I just want to share with you guys something else. Like, I am aware of a number of different past lives that I've had. I sometimes find myself seeing out over a different pair of cheekbones, that sort of thing. And then I also have these memories of different times in my life when things went how they went. And I've come to realize that it's really all kind of the same thing, that I'm not any of those people. You know what I mean? I'm not an Aztec priest, and I'm not the little girl who's being raged at by her mom. I'm making connections like at a switchboard. Like, I can feel that person's experience. And there was a time maybe when I could relate more directly to having been that person, but it's not who I am right now. So it's important for me to not connect to other realities where I was more abused, where things were shitty, any more than it makes sense for me to really identify with the Aztec priest that I used to be. Does that make sense? So I feel very liberated right now. I really feel very much able to step all the way out of my mother's crazy shit and not be angry about it. Like, I can forgive myself for having begged her to forgive me, and for having tried so hard for someone who was so hateful at all times. That's no mean feat. Like, forgiving yourself for making a fool of yourself, wanting someone's love who is not going to give it, that can be challenging. That can be hard for your self-esteem. So I forgive myself for that. It was only the natural and normal thing to want to do. And now that I see just what a pathetic pile of crap this whole deal with my grandmother was, it makes perfect sense. Like, it answers all the questions. Like, why were they so mean to me? Why did they have to do these things? Why did they have to pick on me this way? Why did they have to try to drive me all the way out of the world? I don't get it. I was such a good kid, and I tried so hard. And that was exactly why. I made the weak, small, mean people feel even smaller, weaker, and meaner. And they had to drink even more and keep it a bigger secret. So basically, here's where it stands. Like, I sent the landlord upstairs to check on the woman upstairs to make sure she was not being hit. The landlord is the manager anyway, is a sizable guy who most guys would not want to fight with, and he lives right there. So I called him and he went up there. And I wanted that guy to understand that, like, there are other men on the premises who are aware of what you're doing here, and you're not fucking gonna hit her, right? So, but after Jose left, then of course he just shouted some more. It wasn't as bad, but it wasn't actually over with either. But because he's African American, like, I'm very hesitant to call the police, even when I'm afraid for the woman, because it's possible that they are just having an argument the normal way, and that if I send the police up there, he could get killed over just minding his own business in his house. So, you know what I mean? It's a really fucked up situation. At the same time, I never heard that woman's voice. I heard him raging for over an hour, maybe close to an hour. I can't live that way, and I'm not fucking going to. So I told the landlord to let both of them know, if that shit happens again, I'm not calling Jose, I'm calling 911, because I'm not going to sit here while some woman gets beaten. And I hope that the women can find some way out of it, not feel like they need to keep reenacting this shit and trying to get a better outcome either, because that must be what it is. I don't know how these women, for what do you see in this little scrawny drug addict looking loser? I don't get it. I don't get it. What does he bring to the table? What? So, I don't know, but they must have had some kind of childhood situation like mine, maybe, where they just are going to try to beg them for forgiveness and acceptance and think that they're going to get it at some point. But you're not. So that doesn't sound like a super happy story, but I promise you guys it really is. And I feel great about what I learned this past week, and especially about all my great little stinker time. So let me know what you think of that, guys, and let me know if that's helpful for you.